Good morning, YouTube. This your man Rio 855. And this morning, I want to talk about violence. Title: America and Violence. Yes, it's been another violent week. Seemed like all year there's been mass shootings. And it's nothing new because America is a violent country. It has a history of violence. Violence everywhere, whether we see it on TV, movies. We love violence. We love the gangster movies because it's violent. But let me just go back. Violence is a part of our history, starting with the indigenous people. Killing other indigenous people, going back, whether it was fighting over land or taking land, because they want the land. So whether they wipe them out with smallpox or whatever, or just killing them, going back to Columbus. And then let's move up. You look at the Revolutionary War. We see a war. War is nothing but violence. And more killing of the indigenous people, with whether it was George Washington at the helm. We know what he is. And we go up to one of the most violent presidents, Andrew Jackson, Old Hickory. He hated indigenous people. He wanted to wipe them out. People ask why, as they say, so-called Native Americans, why he hated them so much, whether or the copper color people. Andrew Jackson had some black in him, and most people like that always hate themselves. So it's easy to hate others. And he had an obsession of wiping out the indigenous people. More so because they know they was the copper colored people. And like us, we are indigenous to this land. And he knew that. So he was killing them, relocating them, Trail of Tears. That's Old Hickory, Andrew Jackson. That Trump, his favorite president, Trump. So what I'm getting at is the violence, man. Bloodthirsty violence. This week, another bloodthirsty, violent week. And it's going to continue. It's not going to stop, because this is our country. This is our legacy. We love violence. And we do not do a damn thing about it. Violence is down. Crime is down. Yeah, that's what they say. See, it's a game. The stat sheet. And crime is like a business. No crime, no cops. You don't need the cops. You don't need the politicians, because it's a business. They have neighborhoods where they make sure that the crime is going to stay up. Yeah. See, you got to report news. They love to report the violent crime in those neighborhoods. They hate to report the violent crimes in maybe the upper class neighborhoods or the white neighborhoods, or if it's a fascinating story, yeah, they will report it. But the crime in the urban ghetto, or they love it. They love to report the crime in the urban ghetto. It's America for you. The most hypocritical country on earth. We just love it. As I went back with Andrew Jackson and his violent history, we went to the Civil War. And the Civil War was violence because that's what they wanted. They wanted to go to war. Yeah, they're the Union and the Confederacy. Confederacy, they love it. The South, the racist South, they just wanted violence because that's what they did. Whether it was hanging so-called black people or not just hanging, they had to mutilate and do all sorts of wicked things. They say there's justice. And you see the Trump rallies now, and you see the people get roused up. Yeah, half of them, they violent, they are gun owners. They violent people. And they itching for some kind of war. Like the one person in that Colin Kaepernick thing with Nike, when he burnt up his damn property, dumbass. All he was talking about, I can't wait till this thing kick off. What thing you talking about? Well, I know what you're talking about. You want a race war. Because that's all that you can think about is violence. Because that is your nature. But this country, it's the nature of the country. And Trump, the buffoon he is, he revving people up. Then he want to call a press conference and don't want anybody to ask him any questions, and want to call the other person racist, or he used the reverse racism. That's psychology. Stupid. But he's the one revving up the white nationalists. Yes, Trump. And that's the violence right there. So the California shooting was no surprise, because this year that's all it's been, mass shooting. So it seemed like now we having one every week or every 2 weeks, some type of mass shooting, because it's a bloodthirsty nation. Yeah, a lot of rituals. You know, I'm not going to get into the rituals because I know that it's a lot of ritualistic violence, but it's also maniacs out here, psychos, and that's what this country loves. What's the #1 movie of all time, or voted the #1 movie of all time? I'm gonna tell you, Psycho. Alfred Hitchcock psycho from his sick, twisted mind. We love Norman Bates, a psychotic, cross-dressing killer. Yeah. America, sick country. But we supposed to be the greatest and the best country. There's a lot of good things, and there's a lot of good people. Whether they white, so-called black, or other ethnicities. There's good people in the world. A lot of bad people. A lot of bad people in the world, though. And right now, the bad is taking over. Because we got a bad person in the White House. And he's revving everybody up. And so it's okay for people to do what they do. Yeah. For instance, the synagogue shooting. Yeah. That Bowers guy. But he just wanted to kill some Jews. And he blamed them for the caravan. Stupid. But he said it was okay. In his mind, he was like, well, the president says okay. You know, and the president kind of blaming certain people. But those George Soros are people, they financing them. Yeah, it's okay for me to do that. Yeah. You know, and he's telling these psychos, he's letting them know, it's okay to do what you do, but then, oh well, we got to really come together. How are you gonna come together when you are steadily dividing the country? There's no coming together when you're dividing it. You don't want no solutions. You are the problem, Mr. President. Yeah, it's crazy. And it's just gonna be more and more violent days or violent weekends. It's gonna be more and more. Trump, when he talk about violence, he loves to talk about Chicago. It's terrible what's happening in Chicago. Yeah. But what's happening in the whole country, in the mass shootings and the violence you are revving up. You don't want to talk about that, but you love to mention Chicago. See, that's racist. He's racist. But he loves to blame other people. Yes, he loves to blame other people, but he is the problem. Yeah. This country is in the abyss right now, is steady declining. And there's so much hate going around, so much violent tempered people, and they're attacking for no reason. But that's just the mindset of the maniacs that's been let out the closet, because Trump, hey, he said it's okay. I'm gonna rev you guys up so you can come out and do what you do. But you know, I'm not gonna just put all the blame on him, because like I said, it's been a history of violence in this country. And whether it was going back in the 1920s, where gangsters was the topic. Yeah, Al Capone, he had a lust for violence. And man, he lit up Chicago. He lit it up. We was fascinated by that. You know, fascinated by the most famous gangster of all time, Al Capone. And also in the 1920s, the Ku Klux Klan had its greatest triumph, where they was like 4 million strong, marching down Washington. Yeah, showing they might. You know why? Because of propaganda. From a film called A Birth of a Nation. Yes, by D.W. Griffith. See, with Woodrow Wilson, the president at the time, viewing the film and said it was true, he gave it approval. So the Klan membership rose fast. And see, that's how they do it. Oh yeah, these so-called blacks are animals. We gotta get them under control. And the Klan was basically doing whatever they wanted, and because they had membership everywhere, whether it was judges, politicians, big in states like Indiana, New Jersey. Yeah, when you think about the Klan in certain states, you look at now, like Indiana, New Jersey. Yeah, they had a big presence. So I'm just going to touch on Indiana, New Jersey. Mike Pence from Indiana. I know his value as the vice president. And you think about the big presence of Indiana with the Klan in the 20s. And the so-called Klansmen at the time that went down and basically brought the Klan down with them at that time. They were such a big power, and he brought them down with a scandal. And you look at New Jersey, and still parts of New Jersey is divided, but in the 20s, it had Klan membership, even in New York. In Trump and Donald Trump family, yeah. His grandfather or father, they was Klan members, something like that. So it's just not down south, it's up north. Just now they just do it in a more sophisticated way. Yeah. This country and its history of violence, it just will never stop. And I'm gonna go to the 1950s, and they made a movie out of this, In Cold Blood, where the two kids shoot the family, and that was in the 50s. So We say the 50 value, it wasn't no violence and nothing going on. Oh, yes, it was. There was a lot of violence in the 50s. It's just you didn't have the media as big at the time, but you had the papers. They'll report it. It just was a little subtle, but you still, like I say, you still had gangsters, and the America love for the gangsters. So violence never quit. It's just revved up a little bit in the 70s. So in the late 60s, because of the marches and all the other things that was going on, more and more violence. And as the decades got through, like the 80s, 90s, going into 2000, it just got more and more violent. So a history of violence, America, is attached to this country. There's solutions. You can stop it cold, but they're not going to stop it cold because it's a business. Keeps the police and the politicians employed. Yes. They got to keep the stats going. They'll tell you crime is down, violent crime is down, killings is down. They don't never tell you it's eliminated. Oh, you got in other counties or places where they say, hey, if nothing that happens here, there's no killings happen here, but it's always crime in the urban areas. And sometimes you look at in the city where killings or certain violence don't make any sense. Then you ask yourself, is it initiated when things get a little quiet and next thing you know, a killing pop up that doesn't make any sense? And you think about, well, was this initiated to rev things up to keep the violence going? Yeah, and you look at things like Danye Jones and the so-called hanging of Danye Jones. And I'm not a fool. I know he didn't put himself up there. My theory is the cops. That's my theory. The cops had something to do with it. He was like, well, they're not gonna do it. Yeah. Cops was always good for killings. You had to go back to California, especially in the Bay Area, Oakland. That's all they did. They was looking for violence to mess with black people at the time, so-called black people. This was an ongoing thing out on the West Coast. Started making movies and films about it in the early 70s, where the police was always harassing black folks, beating them, messing with them for no reason. America and its violent nature is not going to stop. So as we look at mass shootings again, it's going to be more. It's going to be more and more. And changing presidents is not going to do any good. The violence is going to continue. But you just got more under this president. As Trump, he revs people up. He gets it started. He acts like a buffoon, and people get revved up, and they hyped up to do more and more of this stuff. It's not funny. I'm not trying to laugh, but I'm laughing at the buffoon the president is. And he goes out and makes an ass of himself to get those rallies going and rev those people up. And those people believe everything he say. He'll tell you Martians doing all the killing. Some little men, some little Martians from Mars, yeah, they doing all the killing. Yeah, they doing all these mass shootings, and people believe it. His base will believe it, yeah. And you always talk about fake news, but his thing, Fox is the only news reporting the real news. Fox. What a joke. They living in a fantasy world. They'll have you believing in Santa Claus. Yeah, Santa Claus, and he was white. No damn Santa Claus. That's a myth they made up. See, but then they, the reason at that time when Megyn Kelly said that is to try to connect with Jesus. Yeah, Jesus was white. See, that's the story. She was just putting Santa Claus in there, but it was just getting to Jesus. No, Jesus was not white. And I'm not going to go into that, but I'm just letting you know this is what Fox believes. They believe in a make-believe fairy tale world. That's the Republicans for you. Things don't exist sometimes for them. Black Republicans will say, racism don't exist. It's a figment of imagination. Quote from Get on the Bus movie by Wendell Pierce. That's what they'll believe. Is you nuts? You the house nigga. Republicans, black Republicans, you the house nigga. Long as you doing their dirty work and reporting for them and being a contributor for them, they'll give you some crumbs. They'll put you on the payroll. Long as you bashing your people. Yeah. It's sad. It's really sad where we at in this world. America and its violence. Yeah. It's a lot of cities, a lot of urban crime. And it's sad. It's sad to see black on black shootings and killing. That's sad. That's really sad. But violent nature. But to let you know, that's connected with everything that's going on in this country, because we condone violence. Whether we say, hey, we'll just shoot them at the border. That's what we condone violence. We love guns. Gun sales is up and people are getting guns, whether they're getting dropped off in the urban areas or they're being sold illegally. People are getting their hands on guns. The poorest are criminals who will rob for $100 at a cell phone place or whatever, They got high-powered guns. High-power handguns or rifles, but they robbing for $75 to $100. That's violence. That is violence. This country's violent and wicked ways in the system. It's sad. But in closing, America in its violent ways is going to continue. More mass shootings will continue. More killings will continue. And more urban ghetto crime, whether it's black on black, it will continue. Because violence is all we know and all America respect is violence. So this Rio 855. In closing, subscribe to my channel, and I thank you for watching. Peace, and may God bless you. Thank you.